You're listening to Stories Behind the Songs with Chris Blair. For more information, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok at SBT Songs, or check us out at chrisblair.com. What's up, everybody? This is Chris Blair, and this is another episode of Stories Behind the Songs. And this week, we've got Michael Lotten on stage with us. Michael moved to Nashville when he was around 22 from Missouri and started off working in restaurants and playing in cover bands here in town. He's going to talk about the song that got him his first publishing deal, Alcohol You Later by Mitchel Tenpenny. He's going to talk about writing with Tenpenny before either of them had deals and the mini cuts that followed. You're going to hear the story behind Momma's House that he wrote for Dustin Lynch, Money on Me and Last Drive Down Main that he wrote for Morgan Wallen, and Mistake for Chris Lane. We're going to dig into the meaning behind Mistake and look closer at those lyrics. This one is so cool. It was really fun to take apart and dissect. Michael also talks about his most recent cut, which was just released on March 1st. We're going to take a deep dive into this one, looking at some of the lyrics that took this song from the writer's room to Keith Urban. So check out Michael Lotten in the liner notes below and give us a follow if you enjoyed this episode, and tell your friends. It's because of you and your support that we are able to sit down every week on the stage of the listening room and dive deeper into the stories that make up some of country music's best songs. We also, as always, want to give a special shout out to our sponsors, Sennheiser, Imperfect Esthetician, and All Clear In-Ears. If you are looking for a great set of in-ear monitors, make sure to take advantage of our code, SBT Songs, at checkout for 10% off. All right, let's get to it. Here's this week's episode with Michael Lotten. All right, here we are back to the listening room with Michael Lotten. How you doing, buddy?
Doing good, man. How you doing, Chris?
Good, man. Thanks for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I wanna just kind of dive right in and talk about how you got into music.
I grew up in Southern Missouri. Both of my parents were involved in music. My dad's a songwriter. My mother sang with Roy Clark, who's a legendary country artist.
Yeah.
And my stepdad used to engineer actually in Nashville with like Diamond Rio and Brooks and Dunn and stuff like that. So yeah, man, I just grown up in Missouri. I just was always there and always around it, and started playing guitar when I was about 10. Kind of started writing about I'd say 17. Started getting really serious about writing.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, moved to Minneapolis, went to school for recording engineering production, and wound up in Nashville through my stepdad had set me up with this guy, Monty Powell, who's an amazing songwriter.
Yeah.
And he was like, man, I don't know what to do with you up in Minneapolis, but I can help you out if you move to Nashville. So about 22, I moved down here, and been here ever since, man. Just been, chipping away at cover bands and working restaurants, and then finally landed into the publishing thing. So yeah, man.
I love it. What part of Missouri?
Hollister and Branson.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I grew up in Missouri.
Oh, did you? Where?
So, yeah, I grew up more like outside of St. Louis.
Yeah. Okay.
But
cool, man.
we used to go to Branson all the time, and
Silver Dog City.
Yeah. I played at the Mel Tillis Theater.
Oh yeah.
There in Branson. So yeah, very cool.
Small world.
Yeah. So so the production, I'm sure that's a great segue. Let's just go into Mistake with Chris Lane. You also co-produced that.
So yeah, that one, man, that song, I knew it was special the day we wrote it. I had this little riff thing and like this melody idea, and the idea, Mistake, like, and originally it was a negative turn on it. Like, she took everything, man. She's a little mistake my shirt. She's a little mistake my heart. Never gave it back, kind of thing. Like, she was a mistake. And then Chris was like, man, I love this song, but I kind of want to write like a love song. And so I was there with Josh Miller and Chris and did the demo, and it was literally the week everything was shutting down in 2020. I mean, what a March something here.
Yeah.
You know, it was after the tornado and stuff. So I knew the song was special, but you know, the brakes got hit pretty hard with every industry, but especially in music. And so it was just sitting there for a long time. And Chris was always a fan of it. And he wound up switching deals and stuff. And that song continued with him on. And I've recorded, I had the demo version, and then I did another version with him. And then he went in to cut with Derek Wells, and that was the third version of the song. And Derek and Chris had hit me up. They're like, man, would you mind sending us like some of that stuff in there? And they wound up using, you know, I think the vocal and some other stuff. And Derek's like, man, if you want co-production, I think you've earned it on this one. And I was like, dude, I'd love to have it.
That's
you know?
awesome.
And so, yeah, Derek was awesome about it. And Chris was like, I feel really good about you being co-producer. And so, yeah, that worked out, man.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah. I want to go into the writer's room and talk about the hook, because it's just a really cool flip.
Mm-hmm.
She's a little miss, take my last name, because losing a girl like her would be a mistake that I don't ever want to make.
Yeah.
Talk about like just where that came from.
So, man, you know, like I said, it was originally, I should have had it queued up, man. I could have played it for you, but it's the original one was, she a little mistake. Mistake your shirt. Oh yeah, a little mistake you to heaven, then drop you back to earth. Before you know it, she's moving on. Ain't no coming back, wrecked your world. She little mistake everything that you got kind of girl. She's a mistake.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, Chris was like, obviously where he is in his marriage, he's like, man, I want a love song. And I was like, all right, cool, man. Let's just turn this thing. And he had a lot to say about it, just pulling from his life and stuff. And we kept, you know, it's like, it's a good thing she takes your shirt. You know, it's a good thing she takes your heart, your time, all this stuff. And I think the turn came to me at some point, and we were just talking, it's like MISS, mistake, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, oh, drop one of the S's and put them together as mistake, you know? And yeah, that one just came together in the room, man. Josh Miller was really, really crushing it that day lyrically too. And yeah, I wish that happened every day, but you know, can't get that lucky all the time. But yeah.
Yeah. Great song.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I love that one.
You've also got 2 cuts on the last Morgan album. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, that, man, so excited to be a part of a record like that. One of the songs I wrote, Money on Me, with Blake Pendergrass and Matt Roy. And we were in the room. Man, we kept changing rooms. I remember because I was in a newer office building and there was a lot of empty rooms next to my studio. So we kept shifting rooms and we're like, maybe this room will give us something different or something like that. And, but man, we're kind of beating our heads against the wall on it. It took longer than usual. And then finally we get it done. I was like, man, I don't know what we're doing with this song, but it's great. And I don't know the exact progression of how that pitch went, but I know that Blake had sent it to Seth, and Seth's like, man, I love this song. And I guess he sent it to Morgan. And, you know, you never know until the record comes out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, of course, you're excited. You're like, man, Morgan's record, this is going to be amazing. And then, so Blake would kind of hear in every couple months be like, looking good. Like, I think they cut it last week. And then I got a picture of like the chart from the studio. And I was like, okay, it's cut. Is it going to make the record, you know? And so going through all that, I knew the song was cut and they asked for label copy, I believe, and stuff like that. But he had one more session coming up. And I was in with Jerry Flowers and Ryan Hurd. And we had started this, I can't remember what the title was, but it was one of those days where just kind of like, we had a chorus and we were about to call it. Like, it was almost done. And Jerry started playing this riff and I was like, man, I've been trying to do something with this really up-tempo vibe, you know, something like almost like a Kid Leroy kind of up-tempo thing, Machine Gun Kelly or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, Jerry, I had this idea. I was literally driving through Branson, coming back July 4th of that year. And I forget what we were doing, but my wife and I, we had to stop through downtown and maybe we're grabbing lunch or something on the way out. But I was like, babe, one last little drive down Main and we're out of here, you know? And I was like, last drive down Main. I was like, that's a great title. I don't know where it goes. And then, you know, I guess in the room, it was kind of like, man, this is a breakup song, you know? And I kind of had the chorus melody and Ryan was really on point that day. And I think, if I remember right, I think he like freestyled the first verse of it. So we had this song. I was like, I have no idea what we're doing with this song. And we had sent it to, I'm not going to say who it was, but another artist I love, and it sent it to his producer. And they're like, we're cutting this next week. Don't send this anywhere. And in that time frame of like them getting back to us, one of my other publishers had sent it to someone at Big Loud, Sarah Kanabe. And she responded back. So I'd already sent stems and everything to this producer. And I was like, this is a cut. They're cutting it next week. And then we get a call Monday morning. Hey, Morgan loves this song. What do we got to do to get it, kind of thing? So we actually had to pull it from another artist and give it to Morgan. So it was, which is like rarely ever happens with a song.
Yeah.
But Last Drive Down Main, man, that one, and I think they cut it like that week. I mean, that one moves so fast. But yeah, just, you know, being a part, I don't know if I'll ever be on a record as big as Morgan's last record was. I mean, he's breaking all kinds of. You know.
I mean, let's talk about that. I mean, it's, you know, number one, Morgan Wallen is just just killing it.
Yeah.
But that was one of the biggest albums to come out last year. Like, what was that like to just that feeling when you found out that all of this was happening and just watching that blow up?
I mean, honestly, man, it's just like at this point, it's so cool. You know, you're like in the middle of something that is, you know, massive, you know, and it's cool to feel like you're a part of it. As small as you know, you are, it's like, okay, you're a writer on a few of these songs and this thing is just an astronomical record, you know? And so you keep, you know, it humbles you too, because you're just like, I don't know how the stars aligned to get this, but they did, you know? Watching that record, I know that I saw like the data came out in January or something, and they said it was the biggest record of 2023 all genre, you know?
Yeah.
So it's massive, man. I'm happy for him and that whole crew for the success they've been able to garner. And man, I'd love to be on the next one, you know?
Yeah.
So
Morgan, if you're listening, got a full catalog here of songs for you. This episode is brought to you by Sennheiser microphones. When we first started this podcast, we were using some older microphones, and Sennheiser came in and sponsored us and gave us some MK4s and 914s. And I mean, I'm telling you, it's made all of the difference in the world. We love these microphones. We use them at the listening room as well. And I just can't say enough great things about them. Go check out Sennheiser.com. If you are into music in any way, their microphones are hands down the best on the planet. Go check them out, Sennheiser.com. And thank you, Sennheiser, for the support and the sponsorship. We love y'all. All right, let's keep going, man. I love diving into these, and I want to go deep in a room with this next one. Mitchel Tenpenny has been playing the listening room for years. Very cool guy, and obviously, has a lot of success as a songwriter himself and an artist. But let's talk about one of his monster hits, "Alcohol You Later."
Yeah, "Alcohol You Later," man.
I just want to start singing it. Alcohol. It's just one of those songs that just makes you get into it, man.
Man, that story, that song is super wild. I mean, we got in the room that day. I didn't have a publishing deal at the time.
Yeah.
I can't remember if Sam my buddy Sam Sumser. I don't know if he had a publishing deal then or not. I can't remember. But he was coming in and out of Nashville. Like he didn't live here full time at that time either. And so he'd come into town and we had a session. We knew Mitchel through a bunch of different friends. We'd worked together before. And Mitchel didn't have a record deal or anything.
Yeah.
You know? And didn't know what we were writing. And all of a sudden Mitchel's, man, I was at Losers the other day. And this guy turned around to his buddies. He'd been drinking all day, I guess, and he just said, "I'll call you later," but it sounded like "I'll call you later." And I was like, I don't know how to do it, but like we should write that, you know. And it kind of started out, I guess, sort of as like a funny joke thing, and then it turned into, I was like, man, this song's actually like got a hit factor to it. And man, we pitched it all around town, and no bites, and well, I was like, Mitchel, I think it's your voice, dude. I don't, there's not very many guys that can hit these notes, and that kind of range. And then, Mitchel winds up signing a deal. And it was going to be the buzz single for that EP. It wasn't even meant to be like on the EP.
Yeah.
So just like, hey, I've got an EP coming. Here's a little something for the fans before the EP. Well, it wound up connecting, made the EP. And then, Mitchel's company wound up doing a JV partnered with Sony. And so he's like, I'm doing a full length record. And it wound up making a full length record. And man, this is the same demo we did that day. Like it's the same exact thing from my place on West End, you know? And so makes a full length record. He has Drunk Me come out, massive hit. And I get a call from him and he's like, buddy, they're taking I'll Call You Later to radio next. And I was like, this song, I was like, at this point, I can't believe the path it had taken. So through all that, man, it wound up being my first gold record, which was awesome. And got me my first publishing deal, really kind of got me into the Nashville, got my foot in the door.
Yeah.
As some say. But yeah, man, Mitchel, still, I text him all the time. Great dude, so talented.
Yeah.
Love him, love his whole crew. And yeah, that one is special still,
Yeah. He's going to be on this podcast soon as well.
Very
he just
cool.
texted me a couple weeks ago that he was like, okay, I'll do it. So,
dude, awesome, man. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's such a massive song, man.
Yeah, it's one of those ones that, its radio success didn't do a ton, but it's one of those fan favorites that I'm like, man, I feel like he's going to play this song for a long time. You know, it's like just a classic Mitchel song now. So it's really cool to have one of those songs.
Yeah. One of my really good friends is a tour manager, and he was out on the road with Dustin Lynch.
Yeah.
When Momma's House was blowing up.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to see crowd reactions when that thing was just going crazy. Let's dive into that one.
Yeah. Man, that was my first radio hit. I was at an in-town retreat. So they basically rent out a house or something, and they have 4 producers there, 3 producers, and then some top liners, and the artist bounces around each room.
Yeah.
And so, actually I can tell you, he's a writer on the song. I was there with Dylan Schneider.
Yeah.
Who's killing it right now. He was at, I can't remember where he was at. I think it was, it doesn't matter. Anyway, he was at his last record deal, and I had this track, man, and I was like, I'd done, the instrumental was basically done already. The riff, the whole thing. And I was like, I know this one's special. And I got to the retreat a little early, and Justin Wilson was there, and we were talking in the kitchen. And he's like, man, I got this idea today. And he's like, it's called Mommas House. And I was like, I don't know, dude. I was like, I don't know if that fits this thing. I didn't know where it was going. He's like, no, he's like, you don't understand. He's like, I'd burn this whole town down if my mom's house wasn't here. And I was like, okay. I was like, well, I know Rodney Clausen's coming in and Dylan will be here. I was like, man, I've got this amazing track that might fit that. And literally I pushed play, and Justin just kind of started going, already had that locked in. So Dylan and Rodney showed up, and Rodney's like, he's like, man, it's kind of violent. I like it. And so he's like, Rodney just painted it up real quick, man. And Dylan crushed it and had a lot of lines in it as well. And man, I think, I cut Dylan's vocal that day. We were done. And his A&R and stuff, they're like, we love this song. And I was like, awesome. So I was like, he'll cut this, I thought. And then I get a call from my publisher, Travis, at the time, and he's like, hey man, do you think I could pitch this song? And I was like, I'd have to call Dylan. I was like, don't do anything yet. So I called Dylan. I was like, me and Dylan are close. And I was like, hey dude, you could tell me no, but Travis wants to pitch this thing. And he was like, dude, if it's a solid artist, he's like, I'm not giving this thing up unless it's like a big cut. Well, they'd actually pitched it to Kane first.
Yeah.
And Jim Catino was at Sony then, and he was like, hold this. And then Kane's like, I want to write the record. We're like, okay. And then Travis burned it on to a CD, went and gave it to Dustin at some little pitch meeting. I forget what it was. It was some kind of like cocktail hour or something. And so he's like, bring it to me on CDs. I guess Dustin at the time liked to play CDs in his tractor while he's driving around.
Oh, okay.
And
I was gonna say I haven't heard that in a long time.
Right? And so he all of a sudden I get an email a text, and they're like, hey, who are the writers on Mommas House? And I was like, something's going on, and so it ruffled some feathers, man, for sure. And they wanted it for Dylan, and Dylan's like, hey dude, I would love if Dustin cut this thing, so which I understand the back and forth with it, but man, Zach Crowell produced it on Dustin. And it was the first time I'd heard like a major producer cut one of my songs. I was like tearing up. I was like, dude, this thing is huge,
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the first time I woke up every single morning checking the charts, check the charts. So that Momma's House, man, special one. And hopefully I didn't mess anything up in that story, but I feel like that's at least how I remember it going.
Great.
That's how I remember it going. So
first podcast, we didn't talk about that.
Oh yeah, first podcast ever.
Yeah, you're like a pro, man. You're just diving in, and I love it.
Cool.
All right, let's. We got a little bit more time here. I want to talk about this last cut that you just had come out, maybe about a month ago, March 1st.
Oh yeah. So. Man, this one's going to be special. I don't want to say too much, but it's going to be a really special song, I think, for all of us. We wrote this song. Actually, I got to give credit to Jesse Joe Dillon. I mean, me and Rodney Clausen and Jesse Joe were in the room, and Jesse's like, man, I've got this idea, like, messed up as me. And I was like, all right. I was like, that sounds great. And she's like, yeah, I've got this line. It's like, when I get blue, I get dark blue. I was like, well, that's like the opening line of the song. Well, we tossed it around the whole time. And she was like, I really think this is great enough. Like, let me text Shane. So she texts Shane McAnally.
Yeah.
I'd never worked with Shane before.
Great.
And I was like, if you can lock in a date, let's go. So, oh yeah, great dude, super talented. I was a little nervous. I was like, this guy is, incredible writer.
Yeah.
So we got the date. It was like February. I want to say like February 6th or something, 2022.
Yep.
Went in, wrote it. Rodney sang the demo. I had the track done. Basically, I had like 10 tracks, I think, that day, and they were like, this one fits it. And I was like, cool. And yeah, man, it was a really quick write, and got Rodney's vocal on it, sent them a mix like that night. And Shane, like later on that week, he was like, I love this song. And then so I think he texted to Keith, like, this was a Tuesday. I think he texted to him Thursday or something. And I didn't know, but Keith was cutting that next week. And so he's like, hey, send me those stems. And I was like, okay. And I get a text back from Shane on our group thread, and he's like, Keith cut our song today. And it was like the next week.
Yeah.
Which like doesn't happen.
No.
Dude. It's like always, So this is February 2022.
Okay.
I was like, man, I can't wait to hear this. Can't wait to hear it. I knew he was cutting with Dan Huff. And so it took like a year. Finally, I was texting with one of my publishers, Van, and I was like, dude, hit Shane up. Try to see if he's got a mix on this thing or something. And so Shane, Keith bounces stuff off Shane. And so we got a little mix. So I finally heard Keith, who kind of, full circle back to how I started this thing, was Monty Powell, who was really champion for me early on. And it just hit me. I was like, dang, this is full circle. Like, Keith just cut this song. Monty helped me out. I just, it was really cool.
Yeah.
And but yeah, man, so heard it, cried a little bit maybe. Then another year went by, like last fall. They're like, man, I think it's going to rate. There's whispers that it's going to radio next. And I was like, don't even tell me that. I don't, that's like the secret word, like the single, like we don't want to hear that unless it's locked. And so it kind of went from that to crickets, just nothing for months. And I knew Keith had been working with some really great guys. And I was like, man, this one might get pushed to the wayside, And then, I get a text from someone asking me, because I guess they had used some of my programming stuff in the master, just asking me, hey, man, we need to get this paperwork done and stuff. And I was like, what, out of nowhere, and it was in February when I got that text. So literally 2 years later. And then they're like, this one's slated for release March 1st. And just, hold on, it's going to be a special one.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And so, yeah, man, I'm looking forward to seeing what this one does.
We're pumped. It's a great song. And
thanks, man.
Yeah. Just watch it right up, and then we'll have you back and talk about that. That story.
I hope we have a big old year, and you're like, come on back, man. Yeah.
Well, man, thank you so much for being a part of this.
Absolutely.
I always end with the same question. So we got to go back to Branson, 8-year-old Michael.
Yep.
If you're, whatever you're doing, fishing on Table Rock Lake, whatever it is, everything that you've learned now through, going to production school and then Monty and all of the success that you've had, what do you go back and give yourself advice, 8-year-old you today?
Man. I would say, honestly, when I first moved to Nashville, I was holding out I'd had interest to sign publishing deals. Like, people were like, hey, we can sign here, and this stuff going on. And I kept holding out for like this, either a big check or like I wanted to own a certain percentage or something. So I kept holding back. And finally, a huge champion for me early on was Penny Gaddis. And she was like, Michael, sign the deal, get in the door. She's like, just start writing. Like, and finally I did. And after I jumped in, things started moving, and it's a grind, but just being a part of the community is, if you got the opportunity to do it, just jump on it.
Yeah.
Just get in, so don't hold back.
Yeah.
Don't worry about the check, just get in there.
Love it.
Yeah.
Great advice. Well, dude, thanks again. Thanks for being
you, Chris.
here.
It's great, man.
Thank you guys out there listening, wherever you are. We appreciate the support. As always, make sure you hit that follow, subscribe button, and keep up to date with episodes that are coming out. This has been another episode of Stories Behind the Songs. I'm Chris Blair, and you've been listening to Michael Lotten. We'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to another episode of Stories Behind the Songs with Chris Blair. Make sure to give us a follow on Spotify if you enjoyed this episode, and make sure you click that notification button so you can keep notified when new episodes come out. We release brand new episodes every Tuesday, and you can find us on YouTube at Stories Behind the Songs with Chris Blair, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Don't forget to send us a comment letting us know what you thought of the episodes. We love getting your feedback, and share this with your friends. The more we grow, the more that we can keep doing this. It's our mission to bring you all of these great stories behind the songs from some of Nashville's most iconic artists and songwriters, publishers, producers, everyone in between, and a lot of my great friends. We love what we do, and we love sharing their stories with you. We appreciate all of the continued support. Thanks also to all of our sponsors, and we will see you all next week.